Okay, so I'm here today with it's Helen Piper, isn't it? I've stolen
Yes.
off your Instagram because it's I am Helen Piper. So
Yeah.
yeah, so we'll plug that. We'll mention that again, and also I'll put it down in the comments so that you can link directly to Helen's Instagram and her social media feeds. But so I'm here to introduce Helen, who is now, I don't know how to say it. Is it cacao?
Yes. Yeah.
It is
That's
cacao because
yeah.
you know what? Cacao. I want to be honest, not sure. Your headline, your title on your Instagram, and I've got it written down in front of me, says guiding your journey of self-discovery and healing with the power of cacao and intuitive coaching. So very briefly, Helen, do you want to just give me as broad an outline as you can of that, and then we can delve a little bit deeper into sort of what you do in your journey?
Yeah, I'd love to. So, well, firstly, thank you for having me. I really appreciate
Yeah, no
it.
problem.
Really excited. So I started my coaching journey almost 2 years ago,
Right.
and I kind of I went through the coaching masters, and I did my holistic training with them.
Right.
And part of that was to do cacao, and I found that my journey kind of organically started leading down that path. So I started doing a bit of coaching and was kind of very general, didn't really have like a specific niche or anything like that. And I just kind of thought, well, let's see where I get led. I'm quite that's where the intuitive side sort of comes in. I like to just kind of put myself out there, and the universe will help me get in the right direction and head where I'm supposed to head.
Yeah.
So I like to be very mindful and just see where that takes me. So started putting my business out there a little bit and meeting new people, and there seemed to be a really big interest in cacao. So I obviously said, I can do ceremonies, and I love cacao. It was something that I brought into my daily routine anyway because I just really enjoyed it. I mean, it's chocolate essentially, so who doesn't like a bit of chocolate?
Yes.
um, so I kind of made some contacts and did a few ceremonies for people. The feedback I got was just wonderful about the energy and how it made people feel connected. Cacao kind of opens up your heart center. I mean, there's a lot that cacao does, but essentially one of the main things is it opens up your heart center, so it can help you feel very connected. You can go quite deep within yourself, and obviously then that can help you be guided by your gut rather than external influences. We live in quite a busy world,
Yeah.
with a lot of outside sources telling you things, and everything's quite busy and quite hectic, and cacao is just, I find, so beautiful to just come back into yourself, just
Yeah.
spend a bit of time in with you and discover what you really want and what you really need and what feels right. And my path just kind of organically led from there, really. I came up with the tagline. Oh, sorry.
Must be really nice because it isn't like you've gone, I've got to find a niche and I'm just going to settle on something. It's something that's like very organically happened.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And I feel the cacao has guided me through that as well. So like I say, it's been part of my daily routine for quite a long time now, probably about a year since I did my training. So pretty much since I did my training, I've used it within my daily routine. And it's just, like I say, that moment to stop and really be a part of who you are and where you want to go. So I found I was getting, in my start of my journey, quite distracted with business side of things. You need to be out on social media, you need to do this, you need to do that. And that's not really me. I am a lot more go with your gut, sit and see how you feel. I'm very much about feelings and talking about your feelings. And so it kind of organically led that way. And I feel like with the coaching, it ties in really nicely because obviously we want people to dive deep and progress to get to where they want to be. And the cacao, I think, helps you just tune in and follow that journey a lot easier.
Yeah. So you've said it tastes like chocolate, right? Now,
Yeah,
okay,
kind of.
kind of, right. Okay, so I'm a big advocate of plant medicine. I mean, I can't smoke weed, it makes me paranoid, but I do take THC every day.
Yeah,
CBD, not THC, CBD.
yeah,
I think CBD.
yeah.
Thank God, could you? I take CBD every day. and I take like a mushroom complex like reishi mushrooms and lion's mane and cordyceps mushrooms. I have microdosed mushrooms
Yeah,
on and off. I struggle with my mental health. I'm really open about that. I'm bipolar, struggle really badly with anxiety, and I've been on and off medication for a really long time. So for me, if I'd had like a really bad week, I would do some mushrooms and I'd sit with myself, and I'd come out of it the next day and I'd be all right again for a bit of
yeah.
time, rather than constantly being on medicine. So I don't know anything about cacao, but I do know a little bit about that. What are the similarities? Because I know that there'll be a lot of people out there that know about CBD, and there'll be a lot of people out there that know about microdosing and mushrooms. But explain to me in layman's terms, like I'm dumb and don't know anything. And how does it? What does it do? How do you do it? How long does it last? Like that the general
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
So cacao actually then is very similar to mushrooms and microdosing. So
Right.
that's probably the most similar other plant medicine that we can compare it to.
Okay.
So I find that I can kind of microdose with it. A lot of the effects that you would have from microdosing with mushrooms, you can have with cacao, but it just doesn't have that hallucinogenic property in it.
Ah.
So obviously you can take a lot of mushrooms and you can go on a crazy journey. But with cacao, you can take quite a lot of cacao and you would still have all those like mental health benefits, but you wouldn't get that hallucination side come in with it, which for some people years ago when I tried mushrooms, I struggled a bit with the hallucinogenic side of it. So this for me is quite ideal because you can get all those benefits without maybe seeing things and experiencing things that maybe put you a bit on edge.
A lot of people don't like. There are a lot of people out there that with their mental health and with their issues, they really struggle with that feeling of being out of control. They kind of want the benefits of, what comes after when you've microdosed, but they don't want what you go through when you microdose. They find that feeling far too intense. So this sounds like it is a way like less intense, but still beneficial sort of option.
Yeah, absolutely. So what you would be looking for, so you can get cacao in many places, but what you want to do if you want to source proper cacao that you will get these benefits from is you're looking for ceremonial cacao.
Right.
So you wouldn't go to just your local supermarket and pick up what they've got in there, because that would be so processed. That would be a bit more like chocolate rather than cacao.
Right. Okay.
So essentially, if I tell you a bit about the cacao plant and how that's where
that
comes from.
That was going to be my next question, to be honest.
Oh, was it?
What does it look
So
like?
it comes from the Mayans. So it dates back years and years and years, and they've always used it as a plant medicine.
Right.
It's a specific branch of plant, so it's called the Carillo branch. And so that's the cacao that you want to get. So that's why we call it ceremonial cacao. So it kind of differentiates from just cacao, like I say, that you get in the shops. The way the Mayans treat it is it's a very energetic process. So they will cleanse everything. They cleanse themselves, they cleanse their tools, they will make sure that energy around the plant is right. They are very respectful of the land and the processes, that they don't upset Mother Nature. So if there's certain animals that eat from the cacao plants, they will have a certain section that they farm and leave for the animals. So they will have some that they keep for them and some that they leave for nature to carry on its cycle.
Yeah.
There will be roles that men do and there will be roles that women do. So they have male and female energy. So there will be specific roles that they do depending on who they are, what sex they are. They will process the cacao all by hand. It's 100% by hand. It's all organic. They don't mix any chemicals or anything like that with it. They don't use metal because they believe that metal can mess with the energy of the cacao. So when they process it, it's all with wood or stone.
Right.
And then what they do is they will work it all together. Once they've processed the plant, they let it ferment, then they process it all into a block. I've got a little block here actually that I bought recently. So this comes in a little bag.
Okay.
In a block, so the cacao's in here, so it's like a solid block of chocolate.
It looks like brie.
This is the wrapper. This one isn't open, so but
Right,
yeah, this is the block that it came in.
Yeah.
And what they do then is they send it to you. You can obviously then make it up. So when you make up your cacao, if you've never had it before, it is worth starting with a smaller dose to see how you respond to it.
Right.
So we would say usually about 5 grams, start with 5 grams. So you'd shave off 5 grams off your block of chocolate.
Right.
You want to mix it in with hot water, not boiling, because that will take away some of the benefits if you put it in boiling water. So if you use your kettle, you can pour it in your cup and just leave it to stand for a minute or two. So it's, you know, just below boiling temperature. Mix in the cacao, stir that all in. And then really you can have optional extras. So again, if you're into a lot of plant healing, plant medicines, you may want to add some herbs and spices. You can use maybe like a herbal tea or a mushroom tea to mix in with it. A lot of people like to add some form of sweetener, because compared to the chocolate that we know that we buy off the shelves and have in chocolate bars, where chocolate is so processed, it's got a lot of sugars and it's a lot sweeter. So a lot of people find that cacao is quite bitter compared to chocolate. So yeah, you might want to add something like maybe maple syrup or something like that. I'd always recommend sticking with plant-based products for what you add to it, to just make sure you're not taking anything away from the benefit. And then you can just sit. I've got my cup here. I've actually got one with me. And you can just sit mindfully, breathe in the smell. It smells lovely.
What's it smell like?
It does smell like hot chocolate.
Right. Oh, okay.
So it's probably more like a dark chocolate smell.
Like Boston.
Yeah, kind of your darker chocolate than your milky chocolate.
Yeah.
But yeah, it kind of does smell like hot chocolate, really.
Right.
And in this today, I've got cardamom in it, just because that helps with your opening your third eye and aids in manifestation. But you can pick all sorts of different herbs and spices that you can add into it. What I tend to do is I give people the option. So when I'm holding a ceremony, whether that's online or in person, I will give them a list of different ingredients that you can add, and then you can choose, depending on how you feel and what you want to focus on, what your intention might be. You can add a different ingredient based on what you're looking for from that session.
Right. How long do your ceremonies last?
It would depend. So on if it's in person, I would usually say about 2 hours, because then we can incorporate the whole process of the making of the cacao, mixing it together, talking about where it comes from, and then sit and have the ceremony. So I would say for that it's about 2 hours, allow up to 2 hours. If it's online, I then would send all the instructions on how to make cacao to that person, and then say allow an hour for us to sit, be mindful, set our intention. What I like to do is incorporate Reiki with it, so I can do Reiki as well. Quite nice to guide people into a meditation. I usually take them off to meet Mama Cacao, who is the elder that the Mayans believe that's where cacao comes from. She's an elder.
Right.
So I take you off to meet Mama Cacao. You can sit with her, and then whilst you're sort of meditating and chatting with her and getting the information that you need, I will then send Reiki through, and then we just come back at the end and bring you back round, see how you've been feeling, how you got on with Mama Cacao, if there's anything you want to share or talk about. And yeah, so that usually takes about an hour to do that, just that sort of section of it. So
it sounds amazing. I mean, I've been kind of obviously following you on Instagram for some time, and I've been looking at your posts, and I've been following your recent journey. You've been sort of like going on like a daily journey with people.
Yeah.
And it is definitely something that I'm really interested in trying. And as you know, I'm going on a bit of a journey as well on my Instagram. I'm doing like thing. And I'm thinking maybe once we've done this, we can have a bit of a chat, and maybe I can incorporate it, because I'm kind of a bit of a clean slate on that front, and I'd be quite interested to sort of openly go on my journey and you know, from start to finish. So how long from drinking the cacao I mean, is it something that you can do on your own and still have the same benefits? Is it something that you need to be guided to do? How does it work for me at home? Do you know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
Joe Blogs at home by themselves, once they've done their initial ceremony and they've got their cacao, how does that work?
So I would say to have a daily dose you can do by yourself, and just you can replace it your morning coffee, for example. So it can help you start your day. So
Yeah.
instead of having coffee, you can prepare cacao and have that instead. What I would say with the smaller doses is this is where I suppose I can kind of recommend it's like microdosing with mushrooms. You will have it and you won't necessarily go, oh, I feel different, but you'll reach a point in the day where you go, oh, today's been really good actually. And you kind of have that realization that it's not been as much of a struggle as maybe other days have been where you haven't had it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally get that.
Cool. So then with the ceremonial dose, you can do that on your own. And, you know, that's it's a very nice process to do. You can go very deep. But I feel for us, like a ceremonial dose, it's nice to have that guidance,
Yeah.
especially maybe initially until you get a bit used to how to sit with a ceremonial dose, because because it's a plant medicine and it will bring up anything that you need to have brought forward. You can go from, I mean, I've had sessions where I've done it and I've ended up barefoot in my garden dancing and doing somatic movement because that's what I needed to do, to sitting and journaling about past life experiences that I've had, and sort of processing things that maybe I thought I'd processed, but there was still some unresolved things there that I needed to deal with. So it can literally bring up anything,
Yeah.
because it, like I say, it will just work and do whatever needs to be done. So I would say for that, it's good to have some guidance.
Yeah, so is this, I mean, obviously there will be people out there that will think, well, codswallop, but I'm going to try it. I mean, is
Yeah.
it one of those things where you've got to be open-minded and you've got to be open to the possibilities and have your mind open and be open to the energy and relaxed? Or is it like, I mean, obviously we've talked a bit about mushrooms and stuff. Is it like mushrooms? It doesn't matter whether you believe it or not, you're going to get a bit of a thing happen because it's mushrooms and it sends you. Do you get what my question?
Yeah, I mean, it's, as far as I know, I mean, I've always been very open-minded to things. So my approach has always been, let's try it and see what happens.
Yeah.
I don't think I've actually worked with anybody who's, no, I don't believe in that stuff. I would think because of the properties in it, because it's so similar to mushrooms, I would think it would still impact you regardless, whether you believe in the energy side of it or not. I would think you would still get those benefits because it's got so many different properties within it. It is classed as a superfood.
Right. Okay.
And pharmaceutically speaking, it's one of the most complex things that we have on this earth, you know, with all the different ingredients and parts that it's got to it. So I think because of that, because it's got so much in it, it would still work regardless of what your beliefs are.
Right.
But I think it's always nice to, I guess I've always, like I say, I've always worked with people that have always been open to these things. So I've not actually come across anyone who's, no, I don't believe in that, but I'll just drink it anyway. Everyone's always been quite open. So
yeah, I'd be interested if there's anyone out there listening going, no, I don't know how stuff works, to get in touch and maybe give it a go, because I think,
yeah, I'd love that. Yeah, let's test it.
yeah, I think from the perspective, because obviously I'm quite a spiritual person and I'm a very open person. I'm happy to talk about anything. And I'm very similar to you by all accounts. I'm always like, right, okay, I'm going to give this a go and I'm going to give it 100%. And I'm going to really, I mean, I recently went to a somatic like Indian dance night where we had like a prayer circle, and then there was 9 of us and we sat on goat skin rugs and then we danced to music blindfolded for 2 hours. Do you know what I mean? I gave it 100%. I just didn't let myself go, and it was amazing. It was really empowering. But I'd be interested in wondering how it would be with someone that maybe is like really not necessarily closed off, but kind of in that kind of stuff. Because like you said, it's not necessarily about having an instant impact. It's about that your 24-hour cycle's just got a little bit easier than it was yesterday. And how gradually, if you do something every day, that, you know, it becomes more of an everyday thing rather than a noticeable, wow, today was easier. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
More of a lifestyle thing. So how did you, so you discovered cacao through the, was it holistic modalities?
Yes, yeah, it was, yeah, with Diana.
Yeah, and was it, what was your first impressions? What were your first thoughts when this new thing that you'd not really heard of before come up? What kind of...
I was intrigued.
Yeah.
Especially because, like I say, well, I've done mushrooms before and I didn't really get on with the hallucinogenic side of things.
Yeah.
The fact that it had all the same benefits, but without that, I was like, oh, that piqued my interest sort of straight away.
Yeah.
So then I tried it, and I had a ceremony that, you know, I held in one of the workshops for somebody and got really good feedback on the first one I ever did, and was quite like, oh, okay. But didn't really think about pushing it at that point. It was more for me and helping me getting a bit of clarity around how I was going to go from being employed to self-employed and completely changing what I was doing. And, you know, so it was more that kind of try and keep me level-headed so I didn't run off with things and get too stressed or anything like that. So that was why I started it initially.
Yeah.
It just appealed to me of, like I say, the same as same effect as mushrooms. And then it just kind of led me. I feel like when cacao calls to you, you will be led down that path. It will find a way to lead where you're going. And I know that might sound a bit woo-woo for some people. But I do genuinely believe that. Like I was focusing on so many different things, and I was having the cacao for myself, but the people that were approaching me all wanted to know more about cacao. And the more then that I worked with it and shared it with other people, the more feedback I was getting about, wow, like the energy from it was amazing. You hold such a lovely space. It feels so safe, so sacred. Like it's an experience. I've had such positive feedback that it's kind of just gone, no, that's the way you're going. You need to be working with cacao and spreading the love with people. And that, I feel quite honoured with that, because the Mayans knew that at some point they were going to need to share this with the world. Because they also would use cacao for conflict. So if people were having conflict, they would actually sit them down, give them ceremonial cacao, and it helps you be more empathetic. And so you can actually resolve conflicts in a much calmer, nicer way, because the cacao will just bring you both down and sort of take the rage out of these things and let you discuss it. So I think just with all of those different benefits, it feels a real honor to have been pulled in that direction and share what the Mayans hold so sacred. You know, they really do live their life around cacao and all the plant medicines. And I just feel honored that I've been sort of brought in that direction.
So a bit of a spanner question, spanner in the work.
Yeah.
Have you ever had anybody that's reacted badly to it? Or do you know of anyone that's had an experience where it's been like, actually, I don't like that, it didn't work for me, or they've had like a, you know, some kind of profound experience, but one that they really didn't enjoy, that and perhaps you've had to say, or there's a necessity that that's not right for that person? Has that happened?
Yeah, absolutely. So I found it's not about the kind of processing it, it's the actual drinking of the cacao itself. So some people have felt quite unwell when they've had it. I view that as being, that could be many different factors that come into that. That could be like with any plant medicine. I know when people have gone and done, I don't know if I'll say this right because I always struggle to say it, ayahuasca.
Ayahuasca.
Yeah, that's it. I know when people have done that, they can feel quite poorly when they've had that, and it can like upset their tummies and things like that. But sometimes that's part of the process. So I've had a couple of people that have had that experience where they felt quite sicky after they've had cacao. As far as I'm aware, no one was actually physically ill. They just felt not very good.
Yeah.
For one person, was totally open to trying it again. And the next time they tried it, they were fine with it and it was okay. The other person, no, it made me feel ill. I don't want to go through that again.
Do you think that's psychosomatic almost, that maybe that person had anxiety about taking it, and it's like that thing, isn't it, about you know, what you think you will ultimately manifest. And if somebody is coming into that with, oh God, what if I react to it? What if I don't like it? What if it makes me sick? Then ultimately you might have manifested that feeling yourself as a reason not to do it again. Time out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Is
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, I believe that can be the case. I also believe with cacao, there can be some contraindications. And so if maybe these people didn't share everything, so I tend to check with people that they're not on very strong SSRIs or antipsychotics, because that can have an adverse effect with it, or that they've got any heart conditions, because it opens up the vessels for the blood to flow, and that increases how the heart works. And so if you've got any heart problems, it's not that you can't have it. It would be that you would have a smaller amount and see how you go, and then you can increase depending on how you go with your first experience. But also, if, for example, maybe they'd had some alcohol the night before, or maybe they smoked weed and they had quite a lot of weed in their systems, that doesn't work. They tend to sort of say don't really mix other drugs with it, because you want the pure benefit of the cacao. Myself, I am actually on some SSRIs, but I can have cacao no problems. It's never made me feel sick, or anything like that. So I think it may happen for some people at some point. It could be that the dosage was too strong. If you're not sure and it's something that you would like to try, but you don't want to get those feelings, start with 5 grams and build your way up from there, would be my advice on it.
Yeah,
or if
like you said at the beginning, start small.
Yeah, start small, work your way up.
And I suppose it's the same with anything. I mean, I don't like Cadbury's hot chocolate. It's too sweet. I mean, I don't drink anything like that anyway. I'm a purely tea girl.
Right.
And water. I drink loads of water. Although I do take Shilajit. I don't know if you know what that is. I take that every day.
No.
So it's from the Himalayas, and it's basically fermented like vitamins and minerals that's like over hundreds of thousands of years has become, so it replaces a lot of the vitamins and minerals that we lose in our bodies.
Oh wow.
And I take that. It doesn't smell very nice, but if you put it with really, really weak black coffee, it's just about bearable. But it's definitely it kind of means that you don't have to take things like sea kelp and sea moss and all that kind of stuff. It's like all your base vitamins, minerals. And I wonder whether it would have an effect with that. I mean, I'd be definitely interested in giving it a go, without question.
Yeah.
Where would you recommend getting it from? Do you supply? How does where do you go sort of from there? How do you?
So my personal recommendation, I don't advertise for anybody. This is just who I buy through and I feel are good, reputable people to get your cacao through. They are making sure that the farmers are treated well, you know, that they're not taken advantage of. So you can get there's an online company called Forever Cacao.
Yeah.
They're quite easy to look up. I think they've also got an Instagram and Facebook page, so you can always look them up on there. So I'd recommend them. There's also Keith's Cacao, which is one that I think a few people may have heard of. Keith seems to be quite popular. I've never met him or spoken to him in person, but he's quite big in the cacao world. He's quite well known.
Right.
And he lives in Guatemala, and he will go out and pick the plants and the pods and things like that. So he's part of the farming side of it as well. So he can send it from Guatemala where it's been made. And then there's also the Mayan Wisdom Project, who are on Facebook and Instagram as well. And that's who I've just bought through. That's where they send in these little lovely little bags, traditional bags. And they also, interestingly, you saying you don't really do hot drinks apart from tea. I've seen on there, I haven't tried it yet because I've only just discovered that they do it, but they do a cacao tea. So yeah, so maybe that's something we can have a look at if you want a ceremony at some stage. Maybe we can try it with the cacao tea and see how that goes.
I'm definitely up for cacao tea. So for people that would like to find out more about a face-to-face ceremony, where are you based, Helen?
So I'm based in Bournemouth.
Right.
So anyone on the sort of
I lived there
Bournemouth
many years ago.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I was 17. It was a really, 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 really long time ago. And I worked for, oh God, I worked for a timeshare company that were based in Bournemouth, and I think I was there for about 3 months. But yeah, I spent a little bit of time down there. So, and do you work from home? Do you have a space? How do you go about your ceremonies?
So I work from home. So usually I'm quite happy to go to people in the local area.
Yeah.
Anyone that's sort of not local to Bournemouth, I would offer to do it online. And then, like I say, I would send through instructions on how to make your cacao, what you can add. You know, I'm quite happy for chats and things like that. So, you know, I'm quite happy to jump on a call with somebody and run through it. And then, yeah, we can get something booked in. Or so, yeah, mostly online for anyone that's not in my local area at the moment.
So, tell me a bit about like your best experience and your worst experience. Let's go from one extreme to the other, because obviously it sounds like you've been on quite a journey in the last couple of years, a very personal journey with like the intuitive side of things and the cacao and bringing them together. So tell us a bit, what, because obviously when we have our first experiences with these things, they're usually really profound, and
Yeah.
usually something about it that really stands out with us, that really resonates, that really pulls us on that journey. Tell me a little bit about sort of your first like big profound experience that you had when you started your journey.
Okay, so it was the positive one. It was really nice actually. So I sat with my cacao and I kind of went off into a meditative state, and I met with Mama Cacao, who I chatted with, and you know, she confirmed that I'm doing the right things. Like, I'd been through quite a lot with where I was working. There was a lot of stress, and there was a bit of bullying, and so it was a really hard situation to try and deal with. And it took a lot to make the leap from leaving employment to going self-employed. You know, it's quite a scary step to take.
Yeah.
And having her kind of reinforce that that was the right thing for me to do was quite empowering in that moment. And then kind of when I was talking to her, and this actually is a bit similar to what happened in one of my Reiki attunements when I got attuned in my Reiki. I was kind of talking to her, and we kind of finished what we were saying, and I wasn't sure if it was going to continue or not. And then I felt this like whoosh. I don't know how else to explain it. It was like a whoosh, and I got taken up into like the cosmos, and I was kind of me, but I wasn't me. I was more like of an energy, and I was just kind of floating, looking at stars and planets. Nothing, you know, I wasn't sort of looking down on Earth. I was just looking out at like the magic of it all, the wonder of it all, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Totally. And I had energies whirling around me in a circle, and I think it was a mix. I don't know who they were, but I think it was like a mixture of spirit guides, family members that I've lost, angels. I'm not entirely sure, but there were these energies. They were all spinning around me in a circle, and then they would just come up and sort of lovingly hold my face and give me messages of, I'm in the right place, you're doing the right thing, go with your feelings, you've got more power than you realize. Yeah, kind of messages like that. Some were quite personal and fairly deep. But yeah, it was kind of just that proclamation really of understanding that just go with what I'm feeling, because what I'm feeling is right. Trust that moment.
Yeah.
And that's kind of led me to be more intuitive and trust. I've always kind of had that connection, but I've always doubted it.
Yeah.
And so now it's been more a case of riding with that and going with that and trusting it.
So do you think it was the cacao that helped you trust your intuition? Because it sounds to me like you were battling with yourself, like
Yeah.
what you wanted to do, but this societal thing and this normality thing says, well, actually, no, that can't be all right, and it's all a bit hooky.
Yeah.
But actually, in your gut, you knew that you know you were not better than that, but bigger than that. That there was more for you. That there was a bigger purpose. So, do you think the cacao was what made you open up naturally to that and just allowed it to flow and trust the process rather than battling against it?
Yeah, I'd say it was probably, it gave me that confidence to trust it, because I think where I was working and things, I would have come across as the woo-woo weirdo one, you know, like that's a little bit out there, all this like intuition, and
Yeah.
but I've always had that. So it was something that I kind of knew I had, but kind of suppressed it because I didn't want people thinking I was some sort of weirdo.
Yes.
So I think that with the cacao and that journey that it took me on, it just helped me embrace that and go, do you know what? I don't actually care if people think I'm a weirdo, because this is right for me. And I know that when I'm helping people and following that gut feeling and that intuition, it's also right for them. And I can do much more meaningful and powerful work with people by being like that than suppressing it and trying to conform, essentially.
Just a quick deviation. What did you do before, Helen?
I used to work for the NHS. I was an administrator for the NHS.
Right, so it's a big difference then. It's not like
Yeah.
gone from a really similar profession, but something, excuse me, within the NHS to this. So you were almost on that path already. You were kind of almost, you weren't, you kind of, the path was over there, but you weren't quite on it. So it
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
forward. So you
Yeah.
could kind of see it. I think, I mean, my best friend, we've been best friends 20 years, she calls it hippie witchy shit. I don't trust it because I'm very rarely wrong, and I'm usually 3 steps ahead of everything that's going on. But they do make fun of me, and it is
Yeah.
my hippie shit. And it's only been the last few years that my mum and dad have started listening to me now. And if they've got a problem, rather than go to the doctors, they'll ring me, and I'll recommend, like, you know, something much more plant-based that will help. And like
Yeah.
they use coconut oil for cuts and scrapes. My mum takes CBD every day for her arthritis. Do you know what I mean? So it's and they're all kind of the same now. They're all coming round to this way of thinking. But I think it's really important to acknowledge that the cacao has obviously been an incredibly powerfully pivotal point of your journey
Yeah.
that's just opened up this world within you that was kind of a little bit locked up before, and that's really amazing to hear that.
Yeah. It's the heart opening in it. So like I say, with the cacao, it's known for being a heart opener. So not as in your beating heart, but your heart center.
Yeah.
So, you know, and because that opens up so much, it just, like I say, the confidence that I've got, the self-belief. My mum is quite spiritual. She's always been a Christian, and I grew up going to church, and she's always been really supportive, and she knows that her and I've both been quite intuitive over our lives, and she's always been really supportive of it. But it's something that was in me that it kind of, a couple of incidents scared me a little bit, so I suppressed it because of that. And then, like I say, with people thinking it's a bit weird, and so she was always really supportive, ironically, and it was me that was kind of shutting myself off from it. So yeah, having that cacao then open it up, and you know, she's really enjoyed kind of sitting back and going, see, yeah, I knew you could do all of this, you know. So having her support all the way through, regardless, when I didn't even support myself, you know, that's been quite
Amazing.
a thing. Yeah, and quite different, I think, because like you say, a lot of people didn't tend to get negative, not necessarily supportive, but I did actually have all of that. It was all in me.
I think a lot more people are a lot more open now than
Yeah.
they were. It is definitely a changing trend that people are not necessarily jumping in, but definitely dipping their toe. And I mean, it
Yeah.
must be quite nice for you to watch people flourish. I've almost I've almost got this beautiful image of somebody kind of just laying there really relaxed with like this beautiful lotus flower opening up in this out of their heart chakra, and just you know, this energy just growing and growing and growing, and
Yeah.
it feels, it just talking to you about it feels really powerful. So I can't imagine what it must be like to go through that ceremony with you, and it must be a really amazing honor, like an honored journey to go on with people and have them put their faith and their trust in you for that passage. And I mean, how do you, I don't know, I'm just a little bit, it's a bit overwhelming. Do you get overwhelmed with it? Or I feel like this really amazing energy from you about it, and it's really contagious.
Well, that's really nice to know. So thank you. I don't know. I've always had a calling. Like, I've always wanted to help people, and that's kind of how I ended up stumbling into the NHS, because as much as I couldn't do anything like clinical, you know, I'm a bit squeamish with things like that, so I couldn't ever be like a nurse or anything. But you know, doing the admin, I was part of that circle of helping people get healthcare and things like that. So it was kind of a way of helping people. But I always knew I needed more. It wasn't enough for me. And I've always felt surrounded by white light energy, like
Yeah.
ever since I was a young child. Like, there's just something that I just know has always been there and is very strong. And so far, no, I haven't been overwhelmed, because I just feel so honoured that people would share that space with me. They don't have to tell me anything, you know, you don't have to tell me your intentions. I just want to take you on that journey, and if you get something from it, then that's enough for me. You don't have to give me all the ins and outs of what went on.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you do want to share that with me, absolutely, I'm there for that too. You know, I'll always be supportive. And I just feel like it's what I'm meant to do. I don't ever feel like it's been too much, or that I need to take that step back and kind of go, whew, you know, it gives me a buzz almost. Like, it boosts my energy, and I just feel honoured. I feel so grateful to be where I am right now, and to be able to offer that kind of service to people, that they can get so much from it.
Yeah, it does. Honestly, your energy is just wonderful. So let's go back a little bit. About what about a negative? Because I mean, and I think obviously we talk a lot in coaching about negatives are actually a positive. You can always find the good in that. So we'll end this little. I'm going to ask. I don't want to end on a negative. I'm not going to do that at all. What I mean is that we'll
No.
talk about a negative experience and then talk about what you actually got out of it. So we'll end that part of the conversation on a positive. But obviously, not all of these experiences are going to be the positive, shiny, bright. That was a really good journey, and I'm going to come out the other side and it's going to be amazing. That doesn't always happen, and we know that in the spiritual world, and it's something that, you know, we have good days and we have bad days, and
Yeah.
you know, some parts of our spiritual journey are quite harrowing, quite hard going, having to face things. There is always a positive to it without question, and sometimes it's really hard to find that. But what, in your experiences, when is that kind of reared up and you've had to kind of go, right, hold on a second, that was something else, and now, because obviously this is an experience that people are going to go on, and you know, some people are going to have good experiences, some people are going to have bad experiences, and it's you know, we're celebrating the good experiences, but also knowing that you're going to support and celebrate the bad experiences too, and figure out what good comes out of them. So talk a little bit about that if you can.
Yeah. So I might obviously put a positive twist on it, because like you say, with the coaching, it's hard to
Yeah,
it's hard to not put
always.
it into a positive.
Yeah.
There's probably been quite a lot, actually, because there's been a few different big things that happened in my life. So I lost my brother when I was 4 years old, and he was 9. So that was something that I struggled to process,
Sorry to
because I was so young, you know, and it's something that I've struggled with a lot, because I miss him, and I still miss him, but I don't really remember him. So it's kind of one of those where it's a bit of a screws with my mind a bit, because I know I've got this loving feelings for my brother, but I don't really know who my brother was.
Yeah.
So that was that was something that came up a few times. I've done a lot of work on that, and actually Diana helped me do some work on that as well when we were doing some training together and doing some Reiki together. So that's been like a reoccurring one for me, where I've had to do a lot of kind of inner child work and go back and speak to my 4-year-old self, who couldn't understand what really had gone on and why this had happened. Nothing was hidden from me. Like, my parents were very open. Like, I knew what was going on, but I was 4 years old, so I can only make sense of it with a 4-year-old's brain, not an adult brain. So there was a lot of kind of going back and speaking to her, and I used to absolutely believe that it should have been me instead of him, because I'd only been around 4 years and he'd been around 9 years. So everyone's built better relationships with him. So it should have been me. I've only been here a shorter amount of time. People wouldn't miss me if I'd gone, but they all miss him so much. So I had to do quite a lot of work around sitting and explaining to my 4-year-old self and my younger self that that's not how it works. And actually, you know, for my parents, if it hadn't been for me, I think, you know, they would have struggled to carry on afterwards. But because they had a young 4-year-old that they needed to look after, and, you know, I kept going, I didn't process grief the same way that they did. It kind of pushed them to keep going and push them forward and drove them to kind of deal with it and get on with it almost. And I know that sounds quite harsh, but I think, you know, that's probably part of what they needed. You know, everything does happen for a reason. There was a reason it was him and not me. So I did have to go back and talk to her at a very young age and kind of make sense of it for her in that 4-year-old brain. But then there was times as I got older and I got to like a teenager and hormones kicked in, and then I couldn't understand it then. And so I felt like a real injustice and got angry about it. And I'd see people with brothers and sisters and they'd argue, and I'd almost like get angry at them for it, because you don't know what you've got. You don't know what I would give to have what you've got. So all of this started coming up for me, and I thought I'd actually dealt with quite a lot of it, because, you know, I'm like you, I'm quite open. So I've talked to people about it. I still talk to my mum about it, you know. I thought I dealt with a lot of it, but the cacao did start bringing some of those things forward for me again. And one of the things that helped me get through was I used to get ill every year on my birthday. And this is some of the work that I did with Diana as well. And the last birthday I had, so my birthday's at the end of November, and my brother died just a few days before Christmas. So less than a month after my 4th birthday was when we lost him. And every year since, I've always been ill. And when I was a child, it was always tonsillitis, which I found interesting, because that's your throat chakra, obviously. And there was obviously things I needed to express but couldn't. And so every single year I'd get poorly on or around my birthday for the rest of my life, up until the last couple of birthdays when I've processed it, and I haven't been ill on my birthday anymore.
So you talk about your younger self, like you are a completely different person. Is that a process you've been on? Is that how you've chosen to like segregate things in order to move forward? Is that part of your cacao journey? Is that part of your spiritual journey? Is that kind of, do you see your past selves as different versions of you, or just completely different? Explain that to me.
So I would see it as, it's still me, but it's a different version of me. And I think with the cacao and the process of going back, it's almost like, I suppose in my head, I see it as like my 4-year-old self. I needed to go back and tell her that it's okay and that I will handle it now. She can go off and be a 4-year-old. So kind of in my mind now, she's off and she's playing mummies and daddies and tea and, you know, all these sorts of things. And she can be the 4-year-old.
That's amazing.
That she was meant to be.
That's such a good way to put it. I really
do you think?
Yeah, no, I really like that a lot. Definitely, yes.
Yeah, and I've that's what I've kind of tried to do at each stage with it. So my teenage self, Go and sit in your room and listen to music and do your head banging and play your guitar and all the things that you used to do. Don't worry about the rest of it. Adult me, I've got this. I've got all of you. Without all of you, I wouldn't have got to where I am now. But let me take the reins. You go and do what you should have been doing at that time. You're free to go and do that.
That's made me a
I'll
little
take
emotional, I'm not going to lie. That's,
Oh,
well, I think it's just an amazing way to look at things, because I think we spend such a lot of time as adults looking back at the negative influences that things on our past have had on us,
yeah.
and we try and deal with that. But I think actually what you've just said there is just amazing, because it's like, actually, go and be a child, little me. I'll take
Yeah.
care of it now we're adults. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's just beautiful. I think it's a really stunning way to look back and, you know, tell your teenage self, go get pissed in the park with your friends, well, your mum,
Yeah.
your mates. It's fine, go do it. I've got it, man. Because actually now, as the adults that we are and where we are, we have got it. We've got it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's in a really, I really like that a lot. And that's definitely had like a bit of an impact on me today. So thank you for that.
Oh, no, that's okay. And that's where I think the cacao ties in nicely with the coaching, because
Yeah.
what nicer than to be able to sit with a cup of cacao, have your heart open, and then whatever's coming up for you as a, you know, as a client, and we're talking, we can really delve deep and we can use the cacao to help go and do inner child work, or, you know, do a meditation to see what situation you're in a different way, and just help it go that bit deeper, that you can process it in a way that you really heal from it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the other honors for me, is that it's not just the ceremonial side, the coaching side, and how it ties in so beautifully with that. And, you know, who doesn't like to sit and have a chat over a cuppa? So why not make it a cup of chocolate? And yeah, let's see how we can accept that everything has happened, is meant to have happened, because it's brought you to here and now. And that's exactly where you're meant to be. And thank you for those instances. If it hadn't been for everything that I've been through in my life, I don't think I would have discovered the cacao in the same sense and be sat here talking to you now. So it's enabled me to be really grateful for everything that's happened. And, you know, it's not just my brother, there was other things that's happened in my life, but I wouldn't change any of it. I have no regrets in my life whatsoever, because I know I'm where I'm meant to be.
See, we're very similar like that, because I feel the same. I've had my fair share of shit from very early age. I'm really happy. I'm really happy with who I am, and I wouldn't change anything. And I think we're kind of honored to be there, because I think there are a lot of people that never get there. I think there are a lot of people
Yeah.
who want to get there that are really struggling, which coaching can definitely help, because obviously
Yeah.
it's about helping you find the answers that are within. And it does really sound like the cacao really ties in with that amazingly.
Yeah.
So are there any misconceptions about cacao? What's the biggest misconception that people sort of throw at you when you're talking about it? Or is it like really people don't know very much about it, that you're generally educating people rather than people coming at you with questions about it that they might have heard rightly or wrongly?
Yeah, it's that last one. People don't know about it. So they either know about it but don't know anything about it. So they've kind of heard of it and want to know more, or they look at you and go, I don't know what that is. What is cacao? I'm yet to meet anybody that knows about it and is like, you know, but what about this and what about that? I've never really had anyone kind of question it.
Yeah.
Uh, it's more just intrigue of, but what is it? What does it do? What do you mean it's chocolate? Well, how is it good for you? Because obviously we know the chocolate bars that we have, and, you know, all that sort of stuff is not good for you. So how, I don't understand how that works. So I mean, there's so much that you can go into with it. I mean, really, we've only scratched the surface. Like, you know, there's all the Mayan history and
Yeah.
all of their calendars and how they view everything. You know, there's so much you could delve into with it, which is quite nice with the ceremonial side, because we can talk about that as part of the process in a ceremonial setting. And it just helps each time people learn that little bit more about cacao and what it does.
Are your,
So
sorry to interrupt, are your ceremonies Do they need to be private?
In what sense do you mean? Like, as in,
Well,
could I do a group one? Do you mean?
no,
Or
I mean, I'm kind of thinking that I would really like to give this a go, because although I'm really happy with who I am, I do have some stuff that I think is unresolved and probably could do with a bit of help coming out. Would you be
yeah,
up for doing like a live ceremony with me for my first experience, and us putting it out there for the world to see, and like just have an open journey? Would you be up for that?
absolutely. Yeah, why not? If you're happy to do that, yeah, why not?
Yeah, I would really like. I'm really open to any opportunity to move forward, and
Yeah,
like you said, to be able to look back at my younger self and go, right, you've really got me, like I'm kind of on the hook here. I'm kind of like, right, but I'd be really open to sharing it with my journey, the
yeah,
ceremony, because obviously I think from what you're saying, I did know a little bit. A friend of mine has got a retreat in Thailand called Rewild. They're just doing it up at the minute.
right.
He does cacao ceremonies, and he's got a cacao calf, and he sells lots of products there. I think I mentioned it to you, but his website's down at the
Yeah,
minute, doing a load of work. Um, and I'd kind of chatted to him about going out there and doing some sort of spiritual coaching work with the people that were staying there, and he kind of said he was up for that, but it kind of already got me a bit intrigued then. And then I believe that the universe puts things in your path for a reason, and then you kind of
yeah,
popped up on my feed, and I was kind of seeing things from you, and I was like, okay, I've been curious about this, and now you're there, and I need to reach out and do something about that. So
yeah,
I'm definitely up for that if you are. Uh,
yeah,
we'll talk after the podcast about ordering some,
yeah,
how long it takes to get here and all that kind of thing, and then we'll stay in touch and we'll put a plan together.
yeah.
But I'm gonna wrap this up because we've been chatting for about an hour now, and it's gone quick. It has gone really, really quick. So I'm going
Yeah,
to finish up and just give you an opportunity just to talk a little bit about your business. I will pop
yeah,
some in the comments anyway, and I will link to your social media. But I mean, do you have a website? How can people get hold of you? Let's kind of finish there.
yeah.
It honestly, it's been so great chatting with you. You've really opened my eyes loads. But go on, tell us a bit about your business and sort of how people can get hold of you and stuff.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So so I've got a website, www.helenpiper.com.
Yep.
So there's loads of information on there. So there's a contact me form as well. So people can feel free to just go through and send me a message. Or there's my social media links. So you can just pop me a message. I'm really open. So, you know, if you want to drop me a message through Facebook Messenger or through Instagram, that's fine, you know, or comment on something and ask me to drop you a message, you know, more than happy, however people want to get in touch. And yeah, I suppose it's the cacao ceremonies is kind of one branch, and the coaching with cacao is the other branch to it. I will just say as well, if people don't like cacao, you know, maybe some people have tried it or they'll try it and don't like it, we can still do a lot of like the coaching side through mindfulness with another drink. So you could have a herbal tea if, for instance, you didn't, you know, want cacao that day, or you already had your cacao and you didn't want any more. So, you know, sometimes it's just that process of being mindful with that cup and going a bit deeper. So there are options if you're not a hot drinker or, you know, anything like that. But yeah, like I say, I'm really open. So even if you just want to know a bit more about cacao, you know, drop me a line. I'm more than happy to, we can jump on a call and have a chat, or we can email or send me a load of questions and I'll answer them, you know, however people are comfortable. Some people prefer chatting, don't they, like via message or email, and you know, so however people are comfortable, I'm really open to, as long as people are in a comfortable space, I'm happy to share whatever they want to share.
Fabulous. So thank you for coming on. And I want to just tell you, just about 30 seconds ago, there was a massive big orb that just went behind you.
Was there?
It was really big and it was really clear. So when I guys, everybody that's out there, when I do this, I'll clip that bit and I'll send it to you. Yeah, it was really obvious. It just went across in the background.
You
So
know, that's funny because I did a call once before when I was training one of my Reiki students, and I had one go across when I was doing that as well. So it happens quite often. So I'm definitely not alone.
Okay, so thank you for coming on. I appreciate your candidness and your openness and you answering my crazy questions. I know some of them were very basic, but yeah, thank you.
No, thanks for having me. I loved it.
No worries. Okay, and I will leave all the information in the comments. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.